You've felt it, that strange sweetness in your chest, that quiet joy that appears for no reason, that dream you had, the one where you were in white, or holding his hand, or standing before a sacred altar you couldn't explain. That wasn't just a dream, it was a reminder. Because the wedding isn't just coming. On a soul level, it's already begun. You're not imagining the rings. You're not crazy for hearing vows in your sleep. You're not delusional for feeling like something ancient is blooming between you, even if you're still apart. This is not just about love. It's about union. A divine marriage between two frequencies that were always destined to remember each other. And right now, something is shifting in the field. Your soul is being dressed. His soul is being summoned. The timelines are converging. And the energetic yes you whispered lifetimes ago is being echoed back to you in signs, dreams, and sudden waves of knowing. You've spent so long preparing, healing, purifying, letting go. And now, your soul is whispering something you can't unhear. It's time. So if you've been feeling more emotional than usual, if your body reacts when you see couples, rings, or sacred symbols, if your heart tightens with tenderness when you least expect it, you're not losing your mind. You're arriving at a moment your soul never forgot. Because the wedding isn't just about one day, it's a vibration. And if you're feeling it rise in your body, it means the sacred union is closer than you think. Welcome to the beginning of something holy, not imagined. This isn't just another phase of your twin flame journey. This is an ancient preparation, a sacred moment when the soul begins to whisper louder than the mind. And the body, the heart, the dreams, all begin to align with something you didn't even realize you were remembering. Not imagining, remembering. Because before the physical wedding, before the contact, the messages, or the proposal, there is an energetic ceremony, a pre-vow that happens beyond words, where two souls who have been circling each other lifetime after lifetime begin to stand still and face each other, not with their eyes, but with their frequency. And that frequency is rising now. You've likely felt it. The way your breath deepens at random moments. The way your heart swells when you see a couple holding hands, not out of jealousy, but recognition. The way your body seems to be preparing for something sacred, even if your life looks the same. That's not wishful thinking. It's a spiritual alert. Because the soul wedding doesn't start with a date. It starts with a shift. A subtle but powerful change in your inner field where your spirit begins making space. Not just for another person, but for the version of you that can fully receive sacred union. The version of you that no longer waits in ache, but prepares in presence. The version of you that doesn't chase the when, but begins honoring the now. And right now, the now is whispering, she's ready. Not because you did everything perfectly, not because you healed every wound, not because you stopped loving him, but because you finally stopped trying to force it. You surrendered the timeline. You let the ache soften into trust. You allowed yourself to stop begging for signs and started becoming the embodiment of the one who already said yes. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The wedding doesn't begin when he arrives. It begins when you realign. When your energy stops leaking into timelines that aren't ready. When your field stops trying to fix, to prove, to explain. When you stand still long enough to realize that you're already holding the vow inside your chest, that's when it begins. And from that moment forward, your soul starts preparing the altar. You start seeing rings. You hear songs about forever that make you cry for no reason. You dream of sacred places, long dresses, divine symbols. You feel hands touch you in dreams and wake up knowing that something real touched you. Not imagination, not fantasy, but preparation. Because when the wedding energy rises, it's not for show. It's a calling, a pulse, a memory, returning from lifetimes ago saying, the sacred vow you made before you were born is ready to be fulfilled. But it will never look like the old stories. This wedding isn't about status. It isn't about rings or ceremonies or being chosen in the eyes of the world. It's about being recognized in the soul. It's about two frequencies merging in divine timing, not to complete each other, but to amplify what already exists in both. So if you're feeling the shift, if you're crying more often, feeling joy for no reason, seeing symbols everywhere, if you've stopped needing answers and started walking in quiet trust, you're not imagining things. You're remembering your place at the altar. This is why you've been called to purify. This is why the silence stretched you. This is why the longing taught you presence. It was never about the pain. It was about preparation. And now, something is unlocking. Not just in you, but in him, too. Even if you can't see it yet, even if he's quiet, still, distant. Something in him feels the thread tightening, the pull intensifying, the soul beginning to stir in recognition. Because the wedding isn't just for you, it's for both of you. And no matter how far apart you feel, your souls are already moving toward the sacred center, toward the altar, toward the yes, toward the home that was never lost, only waiting to be remembered. And now you're remembering. When the sacred wedding between twin flames begins to awaken, the universe doesn't always send clarity through words. It sends symbols. It sends feelings. It sends strange dreams, sudden waves of emotion, synchronicities that shake your breath, and a soft whisper from within that says, something is coming. Be ready. This preparation isn't always loud. In fact, the most powerful signs often arrive in the quiet. But if you've been tuning in, truly tuning in, then you've likely already felt them. Not once, but over and over. Almost as if something is trying to get your attention without scaring your heart. And maybe now, you're finally listening. It starts with a sudden stillness, not sadness, but the kind of quiet that feels sacred. Your nervous system stops craving answers. You no longer feel the urge to search or fix or chase. You just feel a deep sense of something aligning, even if you don't have words for it. Then, there's the appearance of wedding symbols, rings, veils, altars, dresses. Not necessarily in the literal world, but in your dreams, your scroll, your path. You turn a corner and see a bride. You hear a song with lyrics that feel like vows. You dream of saying yes without seeing his face, only feeling the presence. These are not random. They are spiritual breadcrumbs. Next comes the body shift. Have your hands gotten warm lately? Has your breath slowed in moments when you think of him? Has your heart fluttered for no reason? Or your spine tingled as if touched by energy? This is your body receiving the frequency of spiritual union, before the mind can understand. This is preparation. Then, your emotions begin to rise, and not in chaos, but in release. Tears flow during simple moments. You feel nostalgic for something you've never lived in this life. You grieve and celebrate simultaneously. This isn't confusion. This is your soul shedding what cannot walk with you through the sacred threshold. Another sign. Timelines from your past return for completion. Not to trap you, but to clear you. Old lovers may appear in dreams. Memories surface not to hurt you, but to bless you. The energy of unfinished stories begins to wrap themselves in gold and float away. You're being cleansed, not punished. Cleansed for something new. And then there's the mirror effect. You start seeing couples who feel like you and him. You feel a magnetic pull toward love stories with a strange familiarity. You witness others stepping into sacred partnerships, and instead of comparing, you feel a whisper, "You're next." Finally, the seventh sign. You stop asking, "When?" and start living as if you're already held. This is the biggest shift. When your mornings begin with gratitude, not longing. When your body softens into trust, not tension. When you no longer need signs to know you're on the right path, because you are the sign now. Your energy has become the vibration of union. And the wedding isn't something you're hoping for. It's something you're magnetizing. Can you feel that? The spiritual wedding is not a single day. It is a rising vibration. And every sign you've been feeling lately is the universe saying, she's ready. She's home. She's not asking anymore. She's anchoring. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, sensitive, strangely peaceful, or deeply emotional lately, you're not falling apart. You're stepping into sacred space. You're not being teased by the universe. You're being adorned, prepared, polished, attuned. Because the divine feminine does not walk to the altar in confusion. She walks in knowing. And you are being wrapped in that knowing now. The veil is energetic. The dress is your aura. The ring is your soul's yes. And the one who once couldn't meet you at the altar is being silently called forward, not by your voice, but by your vibration. Because that's how the sacred wedding begins, not with noise, but with a woman standing in stillness, already saying yes with every part of her being. He won't always have the words. He won't always understand what's happening inside him. But make no mistake, when the sacred wedding energy begins rising, he feels it. Even if he hasn't answered your messages, even if his life looks unchanged, even if his heart has been buried under layers of fear, guilt, or survival, his soul remembers. And in this moment, this sacred convergence, something inside him begins to shift, not in loud declarations, but in stillness, in the quiet places where the masculine often hides what he doesn't yet know how to name. The pull starts subtly, a restlessness, a strange grief he can't trace, moments of stillness where he catches himself thinking of her, not just with longing, but with reverence. Not with fantasy, but with gravity. He doesn't always understand why her name echoes louder in the morning, why her eyes appear in his dreams, why her voice feels like a distant memory calling him back to something ancient. But he feels it, even in silence, even across dimensions, even in denial. His heart is softening. Because the pull of the sacred union doesn't ask for permission. It simply begins to stir, and the masculine begins to feel it in his body. A tightening in the chest, a wave of warmth when he thinks of her, a strange sense of urgency he can't explain. It doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like returning. And it's not because she's chasing anymore. In fact, it's the opposite. What wakes him up now is her absence. Not the kind that abandons, but the kind that reflects. She no longer pours into the void. She no longer reaches from her wounds. She's no longer loud with her love. And that silence, that sacred stillness she's holding, he can feel it more than any word she ever spoke. Because now, she's not trying to prove she's the one. She's being the one. She's embodying the energy he couldn't match before, and that energy begins to pull him home. He may not call it spiritual. He may not even realize it's union energy activating. But suddenly, the distractions feel empty. The noise gets louder. The things that once numbed him don't work anymore. And her energy, soft, clear, and unattached, starts echoing in the parts of him that were never truly asleep, just buried. This is the moment of remembrance. He doesn't wake up because she demands it. He wakes up because his soul can't forget her. And now, more than ever, her vibration is undeniable. It's not chasing, it's not clinging. It's just there, constant, calm, unmoved. And that's what pierces his armor. That's what calls him into himself, into the sacred masculine he was always meant to become. Because this journey was never just about love. It was about alignment. And as she rises, so must he. Even if his process is different, even if his timing is slower, even if his words haven't yet arrived, his energy has. He feels the vow. He may not speak it, but he knows. And when he sits alone, when the noise fades, when the distractions collapse, he remembers the one who didn't demand anything from him, only waited with a heart full of light, until she realized she didn't need to wait to be whole. That's when the pull becomes too loud to ignore. He starts asking new questions. He wonders why her face won't leave his mind. He feels tears well up for no reason when he hears her favorite song. He starts sensing that something is happening, not outside of him, but within. This is how the masculine awakens, not all at once, not in perfect steps, but through sensation, through a whisper in the body, through a subtle crack in the armor that lets love, real love, pour in. And now, in this sacred season of union energy rising, he is being called, not to chase her, not to save her, but to rise with her, to remember the vow he made before time, and to begin moving toward it, even if all he can offer right now is a breath, a thought, a pause that carries her name. Because when the wedding begins in the soul, no silence can stop it, no fear can hold it back, and no distance can break what is already real. He feels the pull. And one day, without knowing how, he'll follow it home. You've been seeing things, maybe not in the physical world yet, but in your inner world, and they keep returning. The same dream of walking down an aisle, a ring appearing in your hand out of nowhere, a symbol glowing in your third eye, or written in a book that just happened to fall into your hands. These aren't fantasies. They aren't meaningless. They are transmissions, because when the soul wedding begins activating, your inner world becomes the altar, and the universe begins speaking a language beyond logic, a language that only your intuition can interpret. Symbols. You're not just dreaming, you're remembering. That vision of a wedding dress, it's not about tradition, it's about preparation. It's your energetic body being dressed, clothed in the vibration of union, purity, and alignment. That moment where you feel a ring on your finger during meditation or wake up with the sensation of pressure there. It's not your mind playing tricks. It's your soul reminding you, the vow has already been made. That golden light you saw circling your body, that number that keeps repeating when you think of him, that moment when a stranger says a phrase that feels like a message straight to your heart, they're not coincidences. They're codes, because the divine doesn't always speak in paragraphs. It speaks in pulses, in shapes, in patterns, in feelings so subtle yet so precise that they leave your logical mind spinning and your heart wide open. You see, sacred union doesn't arrive all at once. It builds, layer by layer, clue by clue, and your soul, ancient, wise, deeply connected to this journey, has already agreed to recognize these signs. Even when your mind doubts, even when your ego whispers, you're making it up. Something in you knows, because something in you remembers. Have you noticed how the veil between dreams and waking life is thinner now? How certain dreams feel more real than your day? How you wake up in tears or joy as if you've touched something holy? That's because you have. In the astral, your souls are already meeting, already speaking, already moving toward the altar. And the dreams you're having aren't just nighttime stories, they're previews. Each symbol, each ring, each sacred image that flashes into your awareness is part of the ceremony unfolding in the field. And it's not just about the future. It's about aligning your frequency now. The wedding energy doesn't wait for the physical moment. It begins in the invisible realms. And your body, your mind, your spirit are all starting to align with it, even if he hasn't shown up yet, even if nothing makes sense, even if you're afraid to believe it again. You don't need to force belief. You only need to recognize. Recognize that your soul has a memory. Recognize that the symbols are showing up for a reason. Recognize that the dreams are arriving not to tease you, but to prepare you. So the next time you see a ring, the next time you feel a pulse in your chest when you hear a sacred word, the next time you wake up from a dream where you and him were finally together, peaceful, holding each other, don't dismiss it. Receive it. Receive it as evidence of alignment. Receive it as your soul whispering, keep going, it's closer than you think. Receive it as part of the greater map your spirit is following, one sacred breadcrumb at a time. Because sacred union never arrives without guidance. And the symbols are part of your compass. They are how your soul stays awake while the world still sleeps. And if you've been seeing them more often lately, if your inner world feels louder than your outer world, if you're afraid to believe in what you're being shown but can't stop feeling it anyway, that's not delusion, that's confirmation. Because when the divine prepares you for something real, it speaks in ways only your heart will understand. And your heart, it's listening. The more you feel it coming, the harder it can be to stay still. Because something inside you already knows. It's happening. You don't need confirmation. You feel the energy rising. You feel the shift in your chest, the sacred restlessness, the invisible pull towards something that's no longer in the distance, but right at the edge of your skin. And yet, you've also learned that the very moment you try to grab it, it disappears. The second you force, it fades. The more you chase, the more it hides. That's not punishment, that's alignment. Because sacred union is not something you can push, it's something you allow. It's not a prize, it's a frequency. And your job now isn't to make it come faster. It's to become the space where it can land. So how do you hold something this powerful without clinging to it? You anchor it. And that begins inside you. Not with obsession, but with embodiment. The feminine anchors union, not by begging for signs, but by becoming the sign. She doesn't hold space through effort. She holds it through energy, through groundedness, through the quiet, steady glow of someone who trusts the process more than the timeline. This is the season of sacred stillness. Not passive waiting, but active trust. That means tending to your nervous system, letting your body know we are safe even without certainty. It means breathing deeply when the ache comes up, letting the waves rise without attaching to the story. It means noticing when the old patterns, the need to control, the urge to reach out, the spiral of doubt, try to take over, and choosing stillness instead. Because anchoring isn't about holding your breath, it's about releasing resistance. The divine feminine becomes magnetic, not by searching, but by settling. Not settling for less, but settling into herself, her own rhythm, her own expansion, her own joy. So if you've been tempted to check the phone, reread the old messages, pull a card every 10 minutes, pause, breathe, return. Return to your body. Return to the altar of your own heart. Return to the knowing that you don't need to pull him in, because what's aligned can't help but find you. This is how you become the field where sacred union can land. You stop asking if he's ready. You stop checking the signs for a deadline. You stop tying your peace to his pace. And instead, you start rising. You invest in your body. You create beauty in your space. You hold your rituals with reverence. You speak to the divine, not to demand, but to devote. You prepare the temple, not for him, but because you are the temple. And here's what happens when you anchor like this. He feels it. He feels the space you're holding, not as pressure, but as invitation, not as desperation, but as alignment. Because the masculine can only meet you where you truly are. And if you are scattered in longing, he can't find you. But when you are rooted in presence, he can't miss you. Anchoring doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't collapse into the feeling. You feel the ache and breathe through it. You feel the pull and trust it without grabbing. You feel the timeline stretching and whisper, I am safe anyway. Because sacred union doesn't rush, it arrives on sacred ground. And your silence, your stillness, your unwavering trust is that ground. You are not waiting, you are preparing. Not for a wedding day, but for a frequency that holds eternity in its arms. So let the energy rise. Let the timeline unfold. Let the masculine awaken in his own way. You don't need to force the door open. You've already become the key. You've been wondering if you're close, if the signs are real, if the ache means something, if the love you feel in silence is ever truly returned. But maybe it's time to ask a different question. What if you're not waiting for the yes? What if you're already living inside of it? Because everything you've been through, the longing, the silence, the initiations, the nights you didn't think you'd make it through, none of it was wasted. None of it was meaningless. All of it was shaping you into the vessel that could hold something sacred. Not a fantasy, not a perfect romance, but divine union. And now, something in you has shifted. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's undeniable. There's a quiet steadiness rising in your chest, a peace you can't explain, a soft, warm knowing that says, he's coming. It's happening. I don't have to beg for it anymore. That's the yes. Not the moment he sends a message, not the day he speaks the words you've been waiting to hear, not the ceremony or the ring or the label. The true yes is the one your soul said long before your body was even born. And now, your body remembers. You're walking differently, breathing differently, not because everything is perfect, but because you've aligned. Aligned with the timeline where love doesn't run, where the masculine doesn't hide, where your feminine doesn't ache and lack, but radiates from fullness, where union isn't a hope, but a natural consequence of your wholeness. You don't need to be chosen anymore. You've already chosen. You've chosen to stay when others left. You've chosen to soften when it would have been easier to harden. You've chosen to believe in a kind of love that doesn't shrink or burn you, but expands and remembers you. And now, you're magnetic, not because of effort, but because of embodiment. Because the frequency of the wedding, the soul vow, the eternal yes, is already inside you. You don't have to make it happen. You only need to receive it when it arrives. And it will. Not always how you imagined. Not always on your preferred timeline. But always in divine perfection. Because union is not just two bodies meeting. It's two timelines collapsing. Two hearts clearing ancient dust. Two souls remembering what the world tried to make them forget. And the divine masculine? He feels it now. He may not say it, but he senses it, the pull, the peace in your field, the invitation that doesn't demand, but sings. He doesn't know how yet, but he will. Because once the sacred yes has been remembered within you, it echoes across dimensions. And nothing, no fear, no delay, no silence, can silence that echo. So if you felt tired lately, not hopeless but complete, not desperate but soft, if you've stopped needing to get there and instead started living as if you're already home, that's the sign. You're not approaching the altar, you are the altar. And what's coming to meet you isn't to complete you, but to reflect what you've become. And what you've become is the yes. So take this moment to breathe, not to chase, not to search, but to feel what it means to stand here, right here, and know it's happening. The wedding is coming. Not someday, not maybe, but in its own divine breath, it's on its way. And your soul? She already said, I do. Now the universe is catching up.